Do you ever have that feeling that no matter how many times you go out with your camera, when you come back in and you finish editing your photos, you're slightly disappointed that they're not as good as everybody else's? There's nothing that makes them stand out and you feel that you're not making any progress with your camera. Well, the good news is, this is an easy problem to fix. And once you see this, believe me, you can't unsee it. Here's the thing about photography. It's equal parts technical ability and artistic interpretation. And if you have too much of one and not enough of the other, then your work, well, it's going to suffer. So if you take these three photographs, for example, this one is pin sharp. I have nailed the focus, and even if a pixel peep into this, the image remains super sharp throughout. Job done, right? Or what about this one? This one is super well exposed, there is detail in the shadows and there's detail in the highlights, and you can clearly see a good level of contrast between dark and light. And this one, well, this does both of those jobs extremely well. It's sharp from front to back, it's exposed extremely well, and it's technically a perfect photograph. But all three photographs have something in common. They are incredibly, and I mean incredibly, bad photographs. So why is that? Well, one of the main reasons is there's no structure to either of the photos. There is nothing that draws your eye, and there's no real intent behind any of these. And if this is something that you can relate to, let's go through this step by step and we'll fix the problem forever. Understanding how to use your camera is one thing, but obsessing over the technical aspects of your photographs is another. If you obsess about learning how to use your camera, what it's capable of and what all its modes do without actually putting it into practice, then the progress that you're going to make is going to be slow, and I mean really, really slow. Ultimately, there is no substitute for getting out in the real world and taking actual photographs. If you're guilty of sitting and watching YouTube videos like this one on how to be the best photographer in the world, but you're not taking any photographs, then you're putting yourself at a real disadvantage. It's like watching a ton of YouTube videos about how to be the best chef in the world, but if you don't go in the kitchen, that's never going to happen. So in my humble opinion, what's far more important is knowing how to structure a photograph. We can easily get overwhelmed by a beautiful view or something that just looks awesome when you're standing there looking at it. And what most beginners and some intermediates normally do is they pick up their camera, point it at this beautiful scene, take the photograph, and then they expect to come home with something jaw-dropping. But that's not the job of a good photographer. Our job is to make sense of what we see, and it's what we include in the photograph that's important. But even more important is what we exclude from the photograph. And there is one thing that helps us eradicate that problem, and that is composition. So the first compositional technique we're going to look at is very common, and you may have heard of it before. It's called the rule of thirds. If you don't know what the rule of thirds is, it's basically the process of overlaying a 3x3 grid over your photograph. And the aim is to place your main points of interest on any one of these lines. And you get bonus points if you manage to place your main subject on the points where the lines intersect. Now there's a good reason for this. Our brains like order when we look at a photograph, and the rule of thirds helps us to achieve that without too much effort. And the good news is that most, if not all, cameras today allow you to display the rule of thirds grid so that when you look through the viewfinder, you can actually see it. And this helps you move your camera around until your subjects come to rest in the appropriate position. The rule of thirds help us with a number of problems in photography, such as unbalanced images or a lack of storytelling and just generally boring photographs. For example, if you take a photograph of an animal and place it in the bottom left intersection of the rule of thirds, you leave a lot of space for that animal to walk into, and it starts to ask the question, where is it going? What does it see? What is it thinking? And another great use of the rule of thirds is to help balance your subject. If the main thing that you've got in focus is overbearing and it's positioned heavily to one side with nothing to offset it on the other, then the photograph just feels uneasy to look at. Placing your subject on one side with a counterpoint on the other brings that balance back. And finally, if you're out shooting and the sky is lit up with a beautiful sunset, try placing the horizon in the bottom third to show off as much of that beautiful sky as possible. But if it's a boring blue sky day, no clouds, then place the horizon on the top third and you can cut out as much of the sky as you want and make the foreground the interesting thing. So hopefully you can see there are a number of great reasons to use this, and if you haven't tried it yet, this is where I would suggest you start, because it makes the biggest difference in the shortest amount of time. So if you're enjoying this so far and you're looking for more information, I do write a weekly newsletter. It's full of genuinely useful information along with a bit of humour and some stories from along the way. And if you sign up, you even get a free ebook which I've just released, and that tells you about all the benefits of starting photography at our age. And it's full of advice on the pitfalls to avoid when you're starting out. The link is in the description, so go help yourself to a completely free ebook. So the next compositional technique takes a little bit of practice at the beginning, because what you're trying to do is identify lines in your photograph that either leads to your subject or it helps draw the viewer's eye towards the part of the photograph that you want them to look at. The obvious example would be something like a road or a wall, but pretty soon you'll start to notice that leading lines exist everywhere. Telephone lines, a line of people, the shape of a building, a shadow pointing towards a subject. Once you really start to see leading lines, they appear everywhere. Because the benefits of using leading lines in your photographs can't be understated. The last thing you want is a viewer's eye bouncing around a photograph, not knowing what it's meant to be looking at, and then they just scroll on by or move to the next photo. The job of a leading line is to guide that viewer to the most important part of the image and keep it there. It's to help them stop and really look at the subject. It creates a visual journey from a start point to an end point, and your job as a photographer is to make that an interesting one. You can see in these examples, I've used the road to draw your eye all the way up to the lighthouse. It's very obvious and it's right in the middle of the frame. But a slightly different version of the same thing, it's the phenomenal alien dawning castle, where a sweeping road curves round until it starts to point directly towards the castle. There are a ton of examples of this out there, and it really just takes a bit of time before you start to naturally see them. There are times when the thing you want to photograph isn't surrounded by lovely foreground, a great sky, or an interesting background. And again here, the beginner's mistake is to just take the photograph anyway and hope that the weight of the subject carries the image. But by using a frame within a frame, we can minimise the negative impact of lacking those important elements. The easiest way to think about this is to start thinking like a paparazzi. You want to be shoving your lens through the bushes, through the trees, the fences, but leaving the foliage draped around the edge of the photograph, because again this then draws the viewer's eye right into the middle of the image. And it doesn't have to be trees or bushes, it could be a window frame, it could be the space between two buildings, it could be a hole in the wall. There really is no limit to what makes a frame within a frame. It's about being a little bit more experimental and looking for ways to make your photograph more interesting. And you can see in these examples that without the framing around the main subject, they would be pretty boring photographs, even though the subject itself is quite dramatic. And going back to what we said at the very start, when we feel like we're not making any progress or that our photographs are boring, this is one of the main reasons. Photographs should be made up of many layers because all photographs are two-dimensional, and it's our job, again as photographers, to try and introduce an element of the third dimension, foreground, middle ground and background. And having a frame around your subject helps to do this immensely. So if you're getting value from this video but want to go further, I've written 2 ebooks covering the 2 things that I genuinely believe make the biggest difference in photography. Composition, which is exactly what we've been talking about today, and getting sharp photographs, because blurry photos are killing the shots that should have been brilliant. Most beginners and a lot of intermediate photographers struggle with both of these things, and the honest truth is there are not too many people explaining them clearly. But these books do, if I say so myself. The links are in the description below, guys, and this is the last week of the promotional price, and once it's gone, it's going to be away for quite some time. And if you want to pick these up at that very attractive promotional price, you'll need to get them this week. And for anyone that does, thank you so much for supporting the channel. The next one is going to require some sturdy knees and a flexible back, both things which I don't possess, but I still managed to do it anyway, and that is to start shooting at different heights. If you want to give the viewer a unique viewing experience, then the easiest and most straightforward way to do this is to change the angle at which you take your photograph to a perspective that people don't normally see in their daily lives. So picture this. You're on holiday, you're walking down the beachfront, and you see other photographers capturing their holiday snaps. How many of them are standing up straight and taking the photograph at eye level? I would argue all of them. And in my opinion, shooting at eye level is one of the most boring ways to present your photographs, and there are a few reasons for this. We've already touched on one. Shooting from different heights can create a three-dimensional effect in your photograph. If you shoot low, the ground can become that foreground that disappears into the middle of the image. If you shoot from a high angle looking down, then that isometric approach adds depth. But shooting at eye level, it doesn't really do either of those things. And if you want to feel like you're making progress with your photography, creating an image that makes people say, wow, I would never have thought of taking that photograph, is one of the easiest ways to feel that progress. And it's as simple as bending down, sitting down, or like me, lying down, and shooting from a lower angle. It not only adds greater dimension to your photographs, it also impacts your subject. Because if you shoot from a really low angle up towards a subject, it starts to look more dominating, more powerful, and adds an element of the hero effect to the shot. And conversely, if you look down on your subject, it does diminish it and makes it look a little bit more insignificant. Or you just might be shooting downwards to change the geometry of the subject that you're capturing. I promise you, if you take one thing from this video and do this, you will be amazed at how different your photographs look immediately. So mix up your perspectives, mix up the angles and the heights that you shoot from. There are literally no drawbacks to doing this, apart from the noise of your knees when you try and stand back up. Or maybe that's just me. Our interpretation of composition is the way that we get to present our view of the world, to create a unique voice and to bring a bit of individualism to our photographs. And there are a ton of other techniques we can use, but when it comes to bang for buck and immediate transformation, the techniques outlined in this video are the very best. A word of caution though, just pick one and try and work on it for a week or two until you get confident with it. Because if you go out and try to find a natural frame with a leading line that points to the rule of thirds, it can become overwhelming. So again, pick one, stick with it, master it, and then move on to the next one. If this video has whetted your appetite to learn more about composition, then here's the perfect video to watch next. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, I will see you in the next one.